North Carolina has always had a rich musical heritage, and we're proud to be a part of such a great treasure.
Join Brooke and I as we talk to some of our favorite musicians, some good friends from our home state of North Carolina. Hear their story and see how bluegrass music has shaped their lives and their career.
Well, hi there, and welcome to another The Carolina Sessions with Darin and Brooke Aldridge. And we are so happy to have a great friend of ours, a mentor, and somebody that the music community loves and has loved for a long time. We welcome Joe Newberry. How are you, buddy?
Doing okay. Getting there one day at a time. I feel like Christy Lane, one day at a time.
That's right. I think all of us have felt like that. So,
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's been quarantine time, hasn't it, my friend?
Yes. If Jimmy Rogers were alive, it's quarantine time in Wake County. Yeah. with the quarantine yodel.
That's right.
That's it.
Oh COVID, Corona.
Got it. That's awesome.
Oh, man. Well, Joe, we met, what, 5 or 6 years ago now, maybe?
About that, we met, we were judging a banjo contest.
Banjo contest. They shouldn't have put me in
I remember. I mean, I've been hearing y'all for a long time, but I remember sitting next to you, Darin, and just thinking, oh, he's one to know. And we got on like a house of fire. And then when I finally got to be around Brooke, I thought, well, he married so dang well.
married up. That's right.
Oh, she's your better three quarters. No doubt.
Absolutely. Yes, when they put us together that day, we both thought, man, we should have been hanging out years ago.
Absolutely. Well, it gives me a great hope for the future. You know, and that's the thing. Whenever I've been talking with folks about this pandemic, I do have hope for the future. Because to not, I couldn't live that way. And so we're gonna get through this. We're eventually everybody's gonna be able to come out and play. It might be different. A shake and howdy from now on might be this. That might be the shake.
Yeah.
But I don't know if y'all have felt this, but I never thought that I would miss sound checks. I never thought, I miss playing for people. Working through the screen, it's great, and we're doing what we need to do. The audiences are being very forgiving for technological, slips or things like that. But it's just, I was somebody's birthday surprise.
How about that?
About a month ago or so, and I went and stood 20 feet away from these two couples and sang a couple of songs. I could not believe how much fun it was.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
Well, we've caught a lot of your live streams that you've done, and I know you've watched quite a few of ours. It's been different, hasn't it?
It has. I'm glad that y'all have each other to do the live stream with, because you can interact with each other. I love seeing y'all together. When I did a live stream for a candidate who's a friend of mine, and she by accident left her mic on and was commenting, after everything, and I thought, oh, that's great. So I've had other folks sort of be the person to comment and send chat comments and things like that. So you're not just sort of speaking out there into the void.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah.
Seeing the reactions and stuff.
Well, Joe, tell us a little bit about your upbringing and what drew you to start playing music. What made you love it and your passion for it?
Well, I come from a singing family in the Ozarks, and my dad and his family, that's what we would do when we would get together, is we would sing. We would sing old Ozark songs, ballads, play party songs. And I was one of those kids that when they would put all of us to bed in the summer when all the family was together, I was the kid that got up in the middle of my night, which was probably like 11 o'clock, and go downstairs where all the adults were hanging out, and I would announce, I'm going to sing a song. And I would sing a song, and they would, and shoo me back to bed. But I come from a family that likes the way words roll around in their mouth, and my family loves poetry, and so it's writing is as natural as breathing in my family. And I wrote my first song when I was 5. It was a blatant ripoff of the Kingston Trio's "Hang Down Your Head, Tom Dooley,"
Oh.
but mine was called "Hang Down Your Head, Bugs Bunny."
That's perfect for a 5-year-old.
You write what you know, and I come from a lawyer's family, and so it was sort of a black and white world in the Newberry household. So Bugs Bunny in the story, he steals carrots and they hang him.
Uh-oh.
And I don't remember most of the verses. I do remember the last verse, which was, "Bugs Bunny's still a carrot lover. He still loves them night and day. The only difference about Bugs is he's eating carrots at Heaven's Gate."
Look at
That's
you.
great.
For 5, that's not bad.
That's really good.
Wonderful.
And you played guitar or banjo first?
Guitar first. I actually took up guitar to try and accompany my family singing songs. Didn't hurt that there was a little girl down the street that was taking guitar lessons. But I played guitar first. When I was 15, I went to the Boone County, Missouri Fair. And I'm walking across the fairgrounds, and I hear fiddle music. And I mean, literally swiveled and walked into that tent and walked into my future. Because there on stage were all of the people who later became my friends and my heroes playing in that contest. So I started playing guitar for fiddlers.
Yeah.
And in central Missouri, where my family had moved, it was a rich area for fiddling. And so that's what I did all through college. I started playing banjo when I was 19 or so, and I developed my 4 notes. They're good notes, and.
And who was some of your influences there on the banjo and guitar and even fiddle?
The influences on guitar was a man named Lee Ruth. Lee had long hair and a long red beard. He was the guitar teacher for most of the kids in Columbia, Missouri. He was never my teacher. I was sort of a second hand to, that girl I mentioned. She would take guitar lessons from Lee, and she'd come back and she'd show me what he had taught her. Lee was great. Still playing great guitar. I tell people that when I grow up, I want to play guitar like Lee Ruth. He would put Christmas tree lights in his beard at Christmas, have a little switch, and just a great guy. On fiddle, Taylor McBain, Pete McMahon. Basically, there were 5 fiddlers that would win one of the places in any fiddle contest in central Missouri. They called them the 5, and I got to know all of them. One time I went to a fiddle contest, and Mrs. McMahon, Pete McMahon's wife, came up to me and she said, "He likes your playing. Come over to the house." So I showed up at the appointed time. I knocked on the kitchen door. She said, "He's in there." And Pete was sitting in the living room on the couch with a chair in front. He didn't say a word. He just took his bow and he pointed to the chair. And so he started playing tunes. And I took out my guitar and started playing tunes. We played for maybe half an hour. The only thing he said to me that entire visit was, "I see you like a dirty ball cap. I like a clean ball cap." And then he started playing, and about after an hour, he stood up and walked out of the room, and Miss McMahon came in and said, "Oh, honey, he had a good time. He had a good time." So I got up with him again, but this time I stopped by Bass Pro Shop, and I bought a new ball cap. And like Minnie Pearl, I left the tag hanging.
Uh-huh.
and I knocked on the door.
For that session?
Hmm?
Did he talk to you more of that session?
Well, what happened is I stood there at the door, and he opened the door this time, and he took a look at that tag, and he said, "Get in here." And then, so, and that really set it set my expectations about how to be with folks when they come to your. Pete was just a lot of times, and I don't know if you've thought about this or encountered it. Sometimes with older players in the tradition, they're not going to give themselves over until they figure out sort of what you're about.
Sure.
And once Pete decided that I was okay, then we were fast friends. And then there were other players that I ran across, and really, they showed me and all of my friends how to be with young musicians and how to be welcoming to them, and not saying, "Where are you from?" but always saying, "Did you bring your music?"
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, what drew you to North Carolina? And did you ever get to go to Union Grove and Mount Airy and some of those conventions and stuff?
I never got to go to the original Union Grove, but I had a friend in college that came back from basically it was a pilgrimage, a 2-month road trip, and he he had gone to see all of our heroes. He went to see Tommy Jarrell and Kyle Creed and Fred Cochran and all these great musicians, and he had like a Kmart or a Radio Shack cassette player, you know, high fidelity.
Right.
But the music jumped out, and so um, I came out to North Carolina to visit a friend. After I needed a break. My mother had passed away, and I had spent a lot of time with her in her last 6 months or so. And so, after a while, I took a road trip, and I came to visit a college friend who was also a fiddler, and my car broke down.
Never got back.
I never got back. I got a job at a newspaper to get enough money to pay for the car, but I was in my early 20s, and when you're young, you know, your life can turn on a dime. And I had made a bunch of friends, and the music scene was great. And that first year I was in North Carolina, I went to Mount Airy Fiddlers Convention. I went to Fiddlers Grove, which is what came after Union Grove. I went to Galax. Good Lord. I had never seen anything like it, and so I decided to stay. And then, you know, I built a bunch of friends. I got married. I built a family, and so I'm here. And I think I've been sort of grandfathered in. I like to tell folks my family went through the Cumberland Gap in the 1830s from Wilkes County, North Carolina, out to Arkansas and Missouri. I just was the first one to come back.
Yeah. I've heard you say many times you're not from North Carolina, but you got over here as quick as you could.
As quick as I could. Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, I know you had a lot of good experiences playing with quite a few bands, and probably one of the most famous and well-known bands for a long time was the Red Clay Ramblers.
Well, the fellows who started the Red Clay Ramblers, over the years, Jim Watson, Bill Hicks, and Mike Craver, they all left that band, and you know, the Red Clay Ramblers is a great band that still is playing today.
Yeah.
But Tommy Thompson was the banjo player in that band, and he was a friend and a hero. You know, when I came out here, I could not believe that all these people who were just voices on records were in my living room or at a dance. You know, the first night I went to a music party in North Carolina, I walked in, it was a shop way out in the country, and I walked in that shop and there were people dancing everywhere and great music, and I said to myself, God, that guy fiddles just like Bill Hicks. And then, you know, like in like a Warner Brothers cartoon where the cartoon's character's eyes go, it was Bill Hicks.
Yeah.
And so after Tommy Thompson passed away in 2001, Jim and Mike and Bill decided that they wanted to play together again, and they asked me to sit in Tommy's chair. And we played from 2003 until 2016 when Bill Hicks took ill, and Bill passed away a couple of years ago. So, but you know, we did not call ourselves the Red Clay Ramblers or the Ramblers or anything like that. We called ourselves Craver, Hicks, Watson, and Newberry, but for short, we would just call ourselves the law firm.
That's what I was going to say. It sounded like a law firm. That's awesome.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But it was an amazing thing to be part of that. My first show with them was at the Carter Fold, and it was right after June Carter had passed away, and Johnny Cash told Jeanette Carter, "I want to come play for June's People," and so Cash came in. They carried him in up onto the stage. All of us are just sitting there watching him basically just talk to June. This one's for you, baby.
Aw.
You know, word had gotten out that John was going to be there, and so cars lined that A.P. Carter Highway. You know, they opened up those big doors, and people were just sitting everywhere. And Cash would say, "I can't tell you how much I hurt. I've lost my soul. I've lost my mate." And at one point, somebody said, just yelled out, "We love you, John!" And he stopped dead in his tracks on stage, you know, and he looked back and he just Johnny Cashed the hell out of him. He said, "I love you too."
Wow.
You know, and so we he played 5 or 6 songs. They got him off stage. They got him into his car, and then we played our show. You know, it was always fun playing for Jeanette Carter, and she would there's a song that the Ramblers used to do, and we also did it, called "Daniel Prayed." And one night at the Fold, we played it. We sang it 3 times. We sang it twice in the first set and once in the second set. But Jeanette, as much as music as we had played, Jeanette would sit behind us on her throne. It was literally a throne, and she would lean in and she'd say, "Play a fiddle tune. You're losing them. You're losing them." You know, in this real loud stage whisper, but we loved Jeanette. Jim and Mike and Bill and Tommy Thompson, when Sarah Carter died, they sang at her funeral. And when Jeanette died, Rita and Dale asked Bill and Jim and Mike and myself if we would come sing at the funeral. And that was an amazing thing.
What a great memory.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know you had a great run with those guys, and that's where I first heard of you. I had a good friend, Rick Dancy, that
Yeah.
y'all there playing, and followed you quite a bit, and give me some CDs and some copies of some live shows and things like that. But y'all had a good run.
I had a really good old time band that sort of straddled old time and bluegrass, called Big Medicine, and we played a lot, played all around the states, and did a couple of overseas tours. But when I stopped playing in bands, you know, I'm lucky. I tell people, and it's really true, I'm in my 2 favorite duos. I play with Mike Compton as Compton and Newberry, and I play with April Virch as Newberry and Virch. And literally, I love the duo form, and I'm literally in my 2 favorite duos.
We saw you with both of those, and they're great, and got to tour with you over in Ireland when
That
you
was
were there
fun.
with Compton, and we had a large time.
Yes, yes, we did. We even made a bass happen without. You know, Billy had to put his travel bass without an amp. What did he end up putting in a trash can to make?
Man, yeah,
Some amplification. That was awesome. Wasn't
That's it.
he pulled us through.
it?
Right.
Well, tell us about being on Prairie Home Companion, man. When was your first year you was doing that?
Well, yeah, my first offer to do the show was in 2007, and I'm probably one of the few people that turned them down because I was booked at the Black Mountain Festival with my band Big Medicine, and they were doing a show in Charlotte, and they wanted a banjo local, a North Carolina banjo player to come play, and I said, I am so honored, but I can't. I've got a show booked that weekend, and I thought, well, okay, that's at least I was asked.
Right.
But in 2009, a friend of mine who ran a bookstore here in Raleigh, she was having Garrison come to do a book signing, and there was such interest that she booked like one of the centers at NC State, held 1,000 people or so, and Nancy Olson was her name. Nancy wanted my band to just come and play acoustically for folks who were standing in line. Well, we were having a big old time. Garrison was signing, and we sang the Watson family song. I came to the place where the lone pilgrim lay. And so Garrison heard us singing Lone Pilgrim, and he got up from the signing table and came over and put a bass part on it because he loves that song. So afterward, we all went up and shook hands. We said, "That was a thrill. Thank you for coming over." And he said, "I want you to be on the show." And I said, "That'd be cool sometime." And he goes, "No, we're doing a show in Durham. I want you to be on the show." So we went and did that show. A couple of years later, the week after Doc Watson died, he asked us to come be part of that show, and we did a tribute to Doc. And it was the first time I got to sing with Garrison. And we sang Tommy Thompson's "The Ace." The Red Clay Ramblers were on Prairie Home Companion a lot in the early years. So about 6 months later, I get a call out of the blue at work. I don't know how they tracked me down, but they wanted me to come to a banjo show in St. Paul with, and the other banjo players were Noam Pikelny and Bill Evans. And I jumped on that, and then I sang a little more with Garrison, and I started being on the show about 3 or 4 times a year. So until he retired in 2016, I was on the show a lot, and I got to do the 40th anniversary broadcast and festival, and yeah.
That's a big deal.
You know what? I had black and blue marks on my arm from pinching myself. And it's at y'all know this from working all the places you work and working the Grand Ole Opry. I'm always so proud to see y'all on the Opry. But one of the things about playing Prairie Home, playing the Opry, anything like that, is that you see people working at the highest level. You see people that are absolutely the best at what they do, and it inspires you to be as good as you can be.
Right. That's true. Yeah. In bands or shows or anything, that's awesome way to put it right there, my friend.
Well,
Speaking of that, you got to be with a lot of great musicians in the transatlantic sessions also, man.
Mm-hmm.
That was unreal to be able to be part of that. It's the same thing. All of those folks are just the best at what they do, and that's what actually made it possible and to go full time playing music. I was one of those guys always that and Brooke, you know this. Play as hard as you can from Thursday to Sunday, and then be back at it on Monday at work. And that was my life for a long time. I got an email out of the blue from Donald Shaw and Jerry Douglas and Allie Bain, and they said, "We would like you to come be a singer on the transatlantic sessions." And I went to Susan, I went to Miss Newberry, and I said, I don't want to turn this down. I can't. I don't want to turn this down, and I don't want to have to do a day job if something happens or something comes from this. And she said, well, book 6 months worth of work, good work, and lots of it, and do it. And I did. And so it was pretty it was pretty daunting looking around. But then I figured that everybody was just, it was the most collaborative music that I've ever made. If you thought that you could add something to what somebody was singing, you just went and did it. Jerry and Allie are very good about just wanting people to make the music that they need to make, and so it was a thrill. That year, the singers were me, Rhiannon Giddens, Cara Dillon, who's the great Irish singer, the great Scottish singer Karen Matheson, and the Milk Carton Kids. So we were all on that tour, and then that was my first gig as a full-time musician.
Wow, what an experience.
Yeah.
To see you at Merlefest do that.
When the Transatlantic Sessions came to the States, we unveiled it at Merlefest, and again it was just amazing. And James Taylor was there, and I never dreamed I'd be able to play clawhammer banjo on Copperline.
Yeah.
Um,
We're on the side of the stage. We watched.
Lord. And then at the end, it was supposed to be he was going to do Sweet Baby James, and it was supposed to be on the harmony Jerry Douglas and Sarah Jarosz. That's what the harmony was going to be. So they start the song. Well, we all know the song. Maura O'Connell. She leans over and she looks over at me and she mouths the words, "Are you going to do it?" And I said, "Are you going to do it?" And she nodded. And everybody, all of the other singers, Declan O'Rourke, everybody, all of a sudden we were just going up to the mic. So the first chorus came in and all of us were singing, and James sort of looked over and he went, I think he kind of knew that it's James Taylor, for God's sakes. You can't not sing on Sweet Baby James. It was cool. And he was just, for one, an amazing musician and very giving. He fit right into that spirit of collaboration.
Yeah.
That was, I'm a lucky guy is what I am. I mean, I've worked a long time and played a bunch of music and got to the place where I feel like I could make a contribution, but I'm lucky.
You've been a part of some great shows and written some great songs to add to the music, and a bunch of them we love. I know one of them won Gospel Recording of the Year. You want to tell us about that with our good friends, the Gibson Brothers?
Well, I met Eric and Lee teaching at one of these music camps up in West Virginia, the Augusta Heritage Center, and it was one of those years where we had a bunch of great folks on staff that sort of walked that line between old time and bluegrass and early country. And so we would have these amazing sessions out on the porch outside where we're all staying. And they were sessions that, we'd play a fiddle tune, a hot fiddle tune. Then we'd do an a cappella song. We'd play some early country thing. We'd do some bluegrass. It was like the spirits were swirling around us, and I sang one of my songs just because I sang one of my songs, as you do. And Eric looked at me and he said, "Well, I like that. Where'd you learn that?" I said, "Well, I wrote that." And so we started trading songs. They would sing one of theirs. And so after that, Augusta, they did a couple of my songs on the album that they recorded next after Augusta. And then I wrote a song in England called Singing as We Rise. And it, it's one of those songs, you've had this. I was walking to breakfast with a friend of mine and he said, "Did you hear those larks this morning?" They were singing as they rose. And brother and sister, I'll tell you what, I got a song written before lunch. And Eric and Lee were going to put that on one of their albums. And they said, I was at the Hiawatha Festival. I'll never forget it. And I get a call from Eric. And he said, I want to talk to you about that Singing as We Rise. I said, are you still going to do it? He said, oh, yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to know if it was okay if we got Skaggs to sing on it. And I thought, yes. Yes, that would be okay.
Answered pretty quick.
Yes, and I went up to Ricky the night that it won the Gospel Recorded Performance of the Year. I went up to Ricky and I just, I tried to not fanboy him too hard, but I said it was an honor for you to sing about my mother in heaven, and he just smiled and he said it was a really kind and great thing for him to say.
Yeah, he appreciated you saying that as well.
Well, he's a one and only, and I listened to Skaggs for a long time. When he was singing with Whitley and when he was playing with the Stanleys, and then the Skaggs and Rice album, and maybe that was the first time that it really got me thinking. Well, this duo form, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good. So,
absolutely, man. I know I got the chance to play a little bit with you at Mountain Stage. Just me and you played a couple tunes up there. I appreciate you asking me to do that.
Well, that song that I wrote with Tim Stafford, "The Marks," you were perfect on it. And it's for folks tuning in. It's a song about old guitars, old instruments, and how they take on our personalities. I was just coming off the road with my old J45, my Warhorse, and I, didn't want to take it out very much. So I was having a new guitar built, but I was sort of in mourning for my old guitar. So Tim Stafford and I started talking about all the things that we love about old guitars, about how they smell so good, and how they, somebody on my old Gibson, well, hold on. Somebody tried to be Elvis back in this is a 49.
Wow.
Somebody tried to be Elvis on it, and I've added a bunch myself. So we talked about the belt buckle marks on it, and the divots on the back of the neck, and really, Darin, you just made that so perfect. That you're
great appreciation for old guitars. So I'm glad you asked me to do it.
Yes, sir.
Since then, I got a 1952 Gibson J45, so I can kind of be like you.
You inspired.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I had the pre-war guitar company folks. They built me one, and it's interesting. During the pandemic, I've been playing a lot of guitar and working on finger picking. Dang it, but also flat picking and doing a lot of strumming, and the wear patterns. I mean, it starts.
Right.
Already started up there, but
They're in Durham, North Carolina.
Outside of Durham, actually, in the little town of Hillsboro.
Right.
And
at the fork of the road there between 85 and 40.
That's it. And they are getting their hands in the middle of old guitars and figured some stuff out. And they've at these guitar shows, folks have been coming up to them and I've been actually helping out at their booth from time to time, because I said to Ben and Ben Michelle and Wes Lamb, I said, how are you guys doing with all this, notice? And Wes looked at me and said, man, I've spent the last 20 years in my basement building guitars. This is a lot. So
yeah, they're great folks. I've talked to them quite a few times there.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit, and it's what we asked everybody, about North Carolina and the sound that it's got here, and even from early 1900s to through the 20s and 30s up till when Scruggs hit the stages in the 40s. just about the drive and the Carolina sound that you would describe. I know you come from the old time world a little bit more, but you've got appreciation and got your foot in all corners of the music with bluegrass, old time, gospel, and old classic country. But tell us your take on that, on the Carolina sound.
As I had my career outside music, I worked for the Department of Cultural Resources, and before that, the North Carolina Arts Council. And so part of my job was to tell the story of arts and culture in North Carolina and how they make our state a great place to live and work and raise a family. You can tell I've said that a couple of times. But the thing is that as far as a North Carolina sound, North Carolina's music was a local music, a regional music, but it became music of the world. Through great players, through Charlie Poole in the 1920s, through folks like Carol Best and the great two-finger style. In North Carolina, a lot of people are surprised that clawhammer was not as practiced in lots of parts of the state. That Charlie Poole finger picking.
Snuffy Jenkins.
Snuffy Jenkins. And so what Earl did, when Earl figured out how to be Earl Scruggs, playing Reuben, the old-time tune Reuben, it literally, that became part of the soundtrack of the world. That sound being put on the Voyager spacecraft, right, going into the cosmos. When Earl played as George D. Hay called it, that fancy banjo. When you listen to transcriptions, you can see why it excited everybody. It sounded actually, for all the world, like a Beatles concert.
Right.
The people just yelling. And as an old-time musician, I understand why in like one growing season, people changed over to play Earl style. Clawhammer banjo, it didn't die out, but it sure took a dip in the amount that it was being played because people wanted to play that three-finger style. Part of that, the Carolina sound, or just a sound in general, is I think that music is it's a progression, trying to be louder, trying to be heard, trying to, I'm playing in, boy, this gourd banjo, just, you can't hear it. Oh, I know, I'll put this stick on a drum. Oh, that's louder. Oh, I'll put a back on the stick on the drum to force the sound out.
Right.
Oh, this honky tonk is loud. Oh, I guess I'll just sort of take this block of wood and put a neck on it and plug it in. So, but in terms of North Carolina, we have so many iconic musicians. A friend of mine, David Minconi, is getting ready to put out a book called "Step It Up and Go" from UNC Press, and it's about all of that good North Carolina music.
Great.
Yeah.
No, we're privileged to have picked with you and get to know you and call you friend, man. We sure enjoyed being with you today, and thank you for all the comments and answers.
Yep, you're definitely a treasure to North Carolina, and we're glad.
Oh, stop, cut it out, cut it out.
Oh no, we mean it. And
well, I look forward to it when we can all come out and play. I feel like when we were kids, we'd stand outside each other's houses and call out to our friends' mothers, "Can Darin and Brooke come out and play?" And we'll get there. We'll get there, and we'll find ways. We'll maybe have to make some new ways to make everybody safe, not only on stage but the audiences. But we'll do it, and we'll get through this. And if we keep our faith and we keep our heads.
Well, we appreciate you folks tuning in. Thank you, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out Joe Newberry and all his social media, his downloads from iTunes, Amazon, wherever you want to get music. And check out the YouTube page as well. Thanks again.
Take care.